And then
we're not live.
Okay, well, here we go. Welcome to YSS Let's Talk. We are live right now. It's a Thursday night, 7 p.m. Every single Thursday, 7 p.m. We do a YSS Let's Talk. You can view all those just by going to www.yss.org. And you can actually view a segment from a few months ago with a special guest that I'm talking to tonight. So we'll get to hear kind of a new take from Ruth Buckels. And I'm so excited about this because we also have another special guest here coming up in a little bit. We're talking about human trafficking. And this month, January, is National Human Trafficking Month to bring awareness to this issue. And I'm going to ask our special guest here in just a little bit, Ruth, about how this hits in Iowa. Because I think a lot of people think Iowa, we're safe here. Is human trafficking even really a big deal? So we're going to talk about that. But before I get there, Ruth was honored with a really special award just this morning, appropriately enough, at the Iowa State Capitol. So instead of me giving a big formal introduction to her, almost too late for that one, but I want to let George Buckels, who was our founder of YSS, give a little bit of a video address introducing Ruth. Oh, I don't think we have audio. I can see George trying to talk. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's try to work on that video. We got a couple of people behind the scenes here. Hopefully they can pull up the audio. But let me just go ahead and bring Ruth right in here. So Ruth, welcome Ruth Buckels, YSS Prevention Manager, truly incredible woman. Ruth Buckels, welcome to YSS Let's Talk.
Thank you, Rusty. Good to be here. Good to be here.
So now I just talked about some things that happened at the Capitol this morning. Okay, you were there. I was not there. So talk to us about that. What happened?
This was the Network Against Human Trafficking's Day on the Hill. And so as part of that presentation, the governor and the lieutenant governor both were in attendance. And there were 5 honored. So I was one of 5 that were honored today. And the pictures that you see are of course, with the governor and the lieutenant governor and myself, one of the pictures. And then the other was a family shot. Some of my children surprised me by attending the banquet or the event today, which was not really planned. So that was kind of cool to have them show up. Very cool.
Well, and let's talk about this because I know some details here, but we got to let people know this. When you say kids, you've got kids.
I have kids.
And how many kids, may I ask, do you have?
Legally, I claim 22 that are mine. You know, that's kind of one of those blessings that you have. I have 4 by birth, and the rest I have adopted or had guardianship out of the child welfare system. Wow.
So an advocate in so many ways, but also touching so many lives. And with YSS, I know, you know, as the prevention manager, you oversee a lot of different programs, be it the sexual health education, be it the substance misuse education programs in the school, youth employment, tobacco, all of these programs. Also AMP, Achieving Maximum Potential, our foster youth empowerment organization and group. All of this you oversee, but in addition to that, human trafficking, which is what we're talking about.
That's right.
So I kind of let off the video, Ruth, talking about human trafficking in Iowa.
Correct.
And last time I talked to you on YSS Let's Talk, it was seriously, I had to go back and watch it, Ruth. That's not a joke, just to get the information you were talking about. And if anybody out there is watching right now and you want to know about what I'm talking about, go to yss.org, find the human trafficking previous YSS Let's Talk from Ruth, and watch that, because the information you shared was incredible, opened up my eyes to human trafficking, first off, how it takes a little bit of a different form than what I thought it took.
That's right.
And then what it looks like in Iowa. So on those two fronts, do you mind talking just a little bit about that and informing the folks that are watching this?
Right. Well, people like to think that it's what Hollywood presents. It's missing people. It's people being stolen out of their lives. And yeah, that can happen. But primarily for most of the people being trafficked in states like this, as Iowans don't like it when people disappear. Okay. Pimps know that, buyers know that. So what they do is they steal them out of their lives. So during your free time, you might be trafficked. So you're not missing out of your family. You're not missing out of your world. You might go to school all day. You might work all day long. You might have the shifts that you take care of. You might buy groceries. You go to church with your family. You take care of everything. But in your free time, when you need to run to the store or you need to run some errands or you're going to have a girls' night out, that's when the pimp would be using you in order to do transactions. And so what we find from our victims is they're not all missing from their life. And especially here in Iowa, where we don't like it when people go missing from our lives, that means we got to go out and search for them. Pimps want to operate in plain sight without having any added attention called to them. So that's why they're smart enough to know, not that I'm giving them any credit, but they're smart enough to know that in order to hide in plain sight, they need to make sure people do not disappear, but that they still get to make money off of those people.
Well, and Ruth, I also don't want to make people overly suspicious here to be watching every single person, but almost maybe that's what it takes. Because on the last video you were talking about too, my goodness, in some of the operations that happen, it's in, how do I say this? In my mind, I think of them being ran down shacks and little itty bitty places where people are kidnapped and they're taken into and they're, but it doesn't look like that.
It does not.
And you're
any business, it can be in any location. And, when you look at national information, the average income for a pimp is $32,000 a week. So these are not run down anything. That's a good percentage of money. These people have mansions, cars, fleets of cars, businesses, multiple businesses. They're networked in their communities. This is a whole underground world working in plain sight. And you can have all kinds of pimps. The youngest pimp I've ever worked with was 12 years old. The oldest in their mid-80s. And then you stop and you think about victims. The youngest victim I've ever worked with was 3 months old when she came out of being trafficked. And the oldest victim was 72 that I got to work with. However, my next guest that's coming on might tell you that there are some victims even older than that.
Okay, and before we get to that, to our special, Ruth, you're a special guest, but
yes, I'm kind of.
I know, but we've got a real special guest here coming up. But I think I want to try to revisit the video that we tried to play earlier, and let's see if we can't get the voice of George Blitzos speaking to us. I just don't think George wants to be heard. Well, I know he wants to be heard, but I just don't know as if we're going to get that audio working, and it could be just a connection issue here. So
that's okay. The award that I received today was for extraordinary advocacy. Basically, it was an award because I did the right thing. You stand up for the people that you need to stand up for, and in that you teach, you educate, you handhold, you bring into safety, the people that need to be. And so not only some of the children that I've worked with, but some of the victims that have made it into my hands or into my life or into my care, just getting them where they need to go so that they can live their best life.
Well, and Ruth, you're a name known not only throughout Iowa, throughout the entire Midwest, throughout the nation, because of your advocacy work. So congratulations on the award. But I know when I was talking to you, I think it was just last night, I can't remember what you said, but it's not that you don't deserve it, but it's just kind of, it's recognition that you think everybody should be doing.
Yeah, to me, this is when you stop and you think about what hinders a pimp or what stops this, it's an observant, advocate, involved parent, somebody that cares about that person, aunt, uncle, cousin, friend, mother, father. It doesn't matter who that person is, but it's somebody that steps up and does the right thing for that person when they need that right step. And so you stop and think about how many of us could do that and are doing that in their lives. So sometimes you do it for your own kids. And I guess when you do it for other people's kids or the neighborhood kids or the kids in your cities or the kids on your block, however you can advocate to do the right thing, that takes it to that next level. And that's what we want to talk about. I received an award for it, of which I'm very grateful. However, it's the right thing to do, to stand for people that need a little bit of help till they can stand on their own and have their voice.
Yeah, and amen there. And for folks that are tuning in, watching this is YSS Let's Talk. We're talking with Ruth Buckels right now, a YSS prevention manager, but so much more than that. Has dedicated a good majority of her life to human trafficking and advocating and educating other folks out there to know, what to look for, but also to know what to do. And so we're talking to community members here. We're talking to folks that just, need to be aware, need to know that human trafficking is taking a little bit of a different form as well. And, so much. So we have a special guest coming up that is actually a survivor of human trafficking. And before I get to Heather here, Ruth, with all of your work with survivors, what has stood out to you? What stood out with the work and the advocacy that you've done with the survivors of trafficking?
These men and women, boys and girls, are just like the men and women, boys and girls that I work next to every single day. They are as Iowan, average, nice, kind, good people. They are so us, and yet they have been victimized. And I keep thinking, people will say to me, how do people get victimized? What pulls them in? They're coerced, they're threatened, they're blackmailed in, and we all have vulnerabilities. So these people that I stand for and that I help and that I assist are people just like me, just like you, Rusty, have a vulnerability that somebody has exploited. And so I guess it's just that they're us, they're me, they're you, they're my coworkers, they're my kids, they're my friends, they're my, people on the street that I get to meet. They're anybody.
Yeah, anybody. And that is so important, I think, for people to know, because we paint this picture in our mind of what victims of human trafficking look like, and it can be anybody. And again, please, folks, if you're watching this, make sure you share this video, get this word and this information out there. And Ruth, I don't want to give the formal introduction to our special guest. Do you mind me tossing that ball to you?
Yep, I will take that.
Thank you.
This young lady, she walked into my life at a coffee shop in Pella, Iowa, and she became not only part of my work, but my heart, my family, and has been part of our family for years now and will be forever. And her story is exceptional and horrifying. It is joyful and tearful. It's every extreme you could imagine. And when you think about this as a story that is common in Iowa, it's terrifying. And so, bring Heather on and let's talk about just exactly what it is that her words and wisdom can share with other people, because boy, she's definitely taught me.
Heather, welcome to YSS Let's Talk.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you're here. You have no idea how excited I've been for this YS Let's Talk. I've been promoting this and so excited. And like I said, yeah, I'm excited for Ruth, but Heather, whoo, I'm so excited for you, even more than Ruth. I tell you what, this is, and I truly,
Wounded.
yeah, we'll get over it. But I truly, really do appreciate you being here and willing to speak out and do that advocacy piece. I think it's so important that, only you can speak like you do because of your experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and how much that mentors to people that, hear what you say, because again, only you can talk to it as you do talk to it or talk about it. So without further ado, Heather, do you mind just introducing yourself, maybe telling a bit about yourself, and even just, what you're comfortable about sharing about your journey?
Absolutely. I'll kind of just start from the beginning. I grew up in a small town in southern Iowa. I came from an upper class family. My family owned a family business, so I was pretty well known to everybody in town. In 2008, I went off to college, Northwest Iowa Morningside College. Just excited to learn, excited to meet new people. And one of the people I met was a guy. I met a guy. I thought he was going to be my husband. Instant connection. And we dated, off and on for a few months. We got closer. He learned everything about me, my hopes, my dreams. He learned about my family. And through that learning, I would later on recognize that he was grooming me. But at the time, this was a man that just took interest in me. No different than most of you have found a best friend, a husband, a wife, a spouse, whatever it may be. I pushed really hard to kind of try to meet his family, and finally came the time to meet his family at a New Year's Eve party, like every other family. Family farm, lots of friends, family were there. As the night went on, though, the guy that I was there with had kind of disappeared, so I went to look for him. And that was the first time that I witnessed he was being raped by his father. And to me, that just shook me. That isn't something that I had ever experienced, that I had ever seen. That doesn't happen in my world. So I kind of just went back into the home, went to bed, and got up early the next morning, went back home, and just kind of just put separation in between us. It was about a month later after New Year's, so around February 5th, that I was walking across the road in the cafeteria, and my so-called boyfriend called and said, I want to talk to you about this. I want you to support me. Come on over. And I did try to support him. I told him that he needed to get help, that what his father was doing to him that night was wrong. A couple days later, I was again in his apartment, and his father showed up, walked into the apartment, put me up against the wall, and said, I know what you saw that night, and you're going to be quiet or I'm going to kill you. His father proceeded to rape me for the first time, handed me a phone and said, when this phone rings, when someone calls, when a text comes through, you're going to respond and you're going to go. Then on his other phone, he showed a picture of my niece getting on a school bus. And I panicked. And I ignored that phone. And I was one night walking back to my dorm from the cafeteria. Someone came up, linked arms with me, and said, you're going to be quiet. You're coming with me. I don't recall the ride there. I just remember waking up, and we were in a building, and I was taken to a room, and I was told to take off my clothes, put on this robe, and someone knocks at the door, to open it up and let him in. And I was like, no. And this lady smacked me across the face and said, ma'am, you have no choice. Like, you're going to do this. And that night, 56 men and women came through that door. Every economical, social status, every walk of life, raped me 56 times, men and women. At the end of the night, they came back in, they threw my clothes at me, told me to get dressed, took me to a table and said, you're going to count this. And I sat there and I counted. In a 12-hour period, after 56 men and women raped me, there was $60,000 laying in front of me. And that was my initiation. So I continued on. I went to school every day. I was at a private college. I was working pretty much full time. And then at night I was being bought and sold. I had roommates and I had friends. It got to the point where I got pretty heavily into drinking. And my friends always thought when we were at the bars that I would just disappear because I was drunk. But the reality was I wasn't really drunk. I was going to transactions. So I was at a bar in Sioux City, Iowa, and men and women text would come through on my phone, and I'd have to go to cars. I'd have to go to nearby hotels. I'd have to go to the bathrooms in the bars for different transactions. In 2012, after 4 years of being at Morningside, after 4 years of being bought and sold every night, every weekend, if I wanted to go home, I could drive home, but I had to stop at the truck stops in between Sioux City and my hometown. If I wanted to go home, I had to follow up with these transactions. And people always, will say, now, well, why wouldn't you just drive straight home? Well, because the fear that they're going to hurt me. There were times where I didn't show up for transactions and I was cut or I was burned. There were times that I didn't show up for transactions and somebody else was physically hurt in front of me. And if I wanted to go home, I had lost all control of my money. So I needed gas money. So if I wanted the freedom to go home, I had to do what they said or I wasn't going to have the gas money to get there. So 2012, I graduated from college, went to work full-time for Fairway. We were helping open a store in Omaha, and my trafficking followed me. So I'd work, 9-10-hour days. I'd be sold in Omaha, and then I'd go home. And I was finally, late 2012, I had enough. I was tired. My body was tired. And I told my supervisor at Fairway that I was just homesick and I wanted to come home. And I called my parents and I just said, I'm homesick. Can I come home? And I just remember it was a Friday afternoon. I walked out of Fairway, walked away from Omaha, and just drove home. I left everything I owned in Omaha, my apartment, my friends, everything. I was homesick. And I get back home and things are pretty quiet for about a month. But then my trafficker came back through. And once again, I was being bought and sold in my hometown and surrounding communities. And it kept going on. And I kept quiet because now I was living in the community where my family was. I brought the risk to them. In 2014, I went back to work for full-time for Fairway, and I was moved to another town. I was moved to Owatonna, Minnesota, and we were opening up new Fairway stores and working a lot of hours. Once again, my traffickers followed me. So not only now I was working long days trying to open a new store for Fairway in Owatonna, Minnesota, but I was being taken up to Minneapolis or back down to Des Moines or over to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And in 2014, I don't know if this was a blessing or a curse, but I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it kind of just shook me. But part of me was like, maybe they'll finally leave me alone. I'm sick. I don't have my hair. I've had multiple surgeries. I've had a mastectomy. I'm just not the person. Like, I'm not going to be worth it to anyone. But they didn't care. So now, once again, I'm still being sold. And if I wanted to go to treatment, I had to go to my transactions. It took years and years for me to heal. Well, what people didn't realize is I was not going to my transactions or I was trying to help pull other girls out, that I was physically being hurt. My traffickers were now taking my incision and dumping ammonia in them so they wouldn't heal. So I couldn't get better. So I couldn't move on with my life. I had met somebody at this time and we started kind of doing a Bible study, and she just started asking questions and kind of slowly pulled out of me that what was going on, that I was being trafficked, that these things were happening to me. And she goes, let's get you help. And instantly, she had a cop mentality, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but instantly wanted to bring law enforcement in, and she wanted to see, I'm branded and I had microchips and I have tattoos and I have burn marks and scars, and she wanted to see them. She goes, well, if you don't show me this proof, it's not real. And but I wanted her support, and I stayed along with her for quite a while. But eventually I started lying and saying that I was free because I couldn't handle if there's no scar, if you don't show me, or if you don't go to the cop, I'm just going to throw you away. And she did. In 2017, it was my birthday, July 17th. And she kicked me out and said, if you're not willing to go to the cops, then you're just white trash, like you're gone. And I went back into my parents, and I just started thinking, and I was working back at Fairway again full time, and I was still being bought and sold. And I just remember a lady on the radio was talking about opening a Freedom House, which is a house for female minor survivors here in Iowa and in my hometown area. And I just remember someone calling me and saying, you need to go talk to her. You need to go share with her the dangers. And I was like, okay. And so I sat down with Miss Jennifer and I just kind of talked to her about, you're going to put these minor children in a fishbowl, and just kind of my fears. And after that conversation, Jennifer goes, have you ever heard of Teens Against Human Trafficking? And I'm like, no, like, what are you talking about? And she goes, I want to connect you to this group. And so she connected me to an advocate at the time that was with Teens Against Human Trafficking, who was like, you know what, my supervisor needs to hear your story. She has experience in this. You need to talk to her. And at this moment, when I was getting ready to go talk to the Teens Against Human Trafficking group, they didn't know that I was still in. They didn't know that I was still being trafficked. And so I said, yep, I'll go talk. And so early on in 2017, I went and I met Miss Ruth in a Smoky Row coffee shop in Pella, Iowa. And Ruth didn't know, but my trafficker was sitting down below watching and monitoring. And I sat up there with Ruth and I just shared with her my story. And for the first time, she didn't ask questions. She didn't judge. She didn't ask for proof. She didn't ask the wheres, the whens, the whys. She validated me as a person. She made me feel like I was not alone. So after that conversation with Ruth, I remember just sitting out in my car and I was just shook. I was crying. I was just scared. Like, for the first time in my life, like, this was really going to be my way out. And after that, Ruth and I mean, we talked frequently, but there was a downfall to that. My traffickers were still very much involved. And the risk of me going and talking to Ruth, I was beat pretty significantly multiple times after that, and raped multiple times after that. But I kept going back to Ruth. I kept going back and I said, I want out. But everybody on the outside, there was, that my pimps were following me. People were following me, trying to pull me back in. And people didn't think, they're like, we think, there was times where someone asked me, are you here just to recruit? Are you just coming around to pull people into this life? But for me, I was just screaming, I wanted out. But I wasn't ready to turn over everything I had. And the thing, Ruth kept pushing, and not pushing for me to talk and share to law enforcement, but she was pushing for me to just take time to heal, to tell myself that, I'm not alone. And she's not wrong. I mean, Ruth's pack is a force to be reckoned with. Every single one of them came by my side and pulled me in. And it wasn't an easy path. There was times that I was still bought and sold, or my car was tampered with. One time I was driving my car on the interstate and it completely just died because someone had come and messed with my battery. We've talked to, law enforcement. And the thing is, people say, why don't you just go to cops? Well, we do. But the problem is, these pimp and traffickers, they're not just your common Joes on the side of the street. These people have money. They have multiple IDs. They have multiple names. They have money to back them. They are powerful people. And I will tell you that I have been bought and sold by doctors and lawyers and law enforcement officers. I have been used and abused. I can't sit here and say every single person watching this tonight fits the description of a pimp or a buyer. And I will also say every single person watching this video fits the description of someone who could be at risk of being trafficked. I didn't come, I had a strong family support system, but I also had vulnerabilities. And I also had masterminds manipulating my brain to get what they wanted. So I can say, 2018 was pretty rough. The last time I was bought and sold was two days after Thanksgiving in 2019. I can say now that yes, I am free, but it's hard. Every day is hard because people don't understand the lasting effects. Just because a survivor is free, just because they're 1 day out, 5 years out, 10 years out, 9 years out, there are lots of things that everybody else on the outside don't understand. It is harder being out today than it was out on day one. The financial ramifications, they took my identity. They took all my credit cards. So when I finally broke free, they charged up every single credit card in my name and just walked away. And remember, I didn't have control of my money. They had taken everything from me. Everything out of my accounts was just gone. So here I am starting over. And it's hard. But thankfully, I still have the Ruths of the world. And through this, people that support me every single day. And I can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. And it's because of advocates like Ruth that I am free. And programs that, YSS provided, that I was able to find my freedom. And now I speak up because there are lots of girls and boys that I was sold beside that aren't here to talk anymore. There are lots of men and women who will never have the voice that I do because they are no longer here, or they are still held in captivity. And I'm not meaning they're locked in bars or in a dark, scary basement. They're being held captive in their brain by the traffickers because the traffickers have some sort of fear, or they're going to force, or the fraud against them. It's very real here in the state of Iowa, guys. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the doctor, or I've shared my story that people are just like, it doesn't happen here. Or I've, doctor's offices that I go to, and they're like, what do you mean you're trafficked? You're smart. You're educated. How could you fall victim? It's here, guys. This is important stuff.
Yeah. We all have vulnerabilities, and boy, do they know how to use them.
Absolutely.
Isn't she amazing? I know half of you are wanting to take her home with you because she is so amazing, but I get her in my family. I only share a little bit. I think Russ is talking, but
I didn't realize I was on mute. I put myself on mute, so you might not hear me sniffling.
Oh, no.
But no, I mean, Heather, oh my goodness. I could talk about you all day long, but I know that we have some comments. And if you're watching right now, you're watching YSS Let's Talk. In educating folks, it's National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and we have a survivor of human trafficking. We have one of the leading advocates of human trafficking here, or anti-human trafficking, and we want to get this word out there. Share this video. But Heather, right there, Sarah says, so impressed, Heather. Thank you for your bravery. And that, just the story alone. I mean, your journey and what you say. Tammy says, Heather, thank you for sharing your story. So glad Ruth and her team have been able to help you. Stay strong. And like you said, it's not easy, right? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you say that it's been a rough journey, but it's not necessarily easy even when you get out necessarily, but you have that support system and that strength. And let me ask you, if people are watching this, and maybe there might even be some survivors that are watching this right now, or there might be community members that know of folks that need to hear this message. Heather, what would your message be to those who might be involved in human trafficking right now?
Sure. To the survivors, you're not alone. Even though it feels like it, there are people out there that are willing to fight for your freedom. To those of you that are in the human trafficking field, whether you're an advocate directly with survivors, you're in law enforcement, you work at the grocery store, basically every walk of life, you need to become the advocate. Educate yourself. You never know when a survivor is going to come walk into your life, and how you react to that person may just save their life. Educate yourself on trafficking. If someone opens up to you and says that they're a survivor or they're struggling with trafficking, it's not your time to ask questions. You're going to embrace them in your arms, and you're going to be like, I'm here. I'm going to stand beside you, and I'm going to support you. Because I'm here to tell you guys, it is very hard for a survivor to step out and to come and get help. And it's how we interact with them that's going to get them to their freedom. That's going to help them make their first step.
Yeah, I often say that for those of us that are advocates, for those of us on the outside of the life, we have to believe in them and
Yeah.
their strength, their abilities, their life, their value, their future. We have to believe in them until they're strong enough to believe in themselves. And that's the gift we give. And you know what? Every human listening to this, everyone who will listen to this, you have that ability. This isn't nobody's, it doesn't take any extrasensory, powers or anything like that. It's just a belief in human beings. And, you do right by people. And that's what it takes to advocate. But one person is all it takes. Heather had one. And then when that person was unable to do it anymore, she knew she wanted out. She had to find somebody else. And she kept searching. People that want out are searching. They tell you, they give you the clues, they give you the information. Instead of saying, no, really? That wouldn't happen in Iowa. Go, I hear you. What can I do? And for heaven's sakes, do what they ask. It is so simple to do. Was it hard? You bet. It's hard to hear that story and not hate in my heart. Whoever bought her, whoever sold, whoever used her, I'd like 5 minutes in a baseball bat with a few people. However, that's not my role. My role is to love and take care of, love and serve. And I have the privilege of doing that. Guys, I need people to do it with me. And that's why we're on this show.
Well, and let me go right there, Ruth. You, as one of the leading advocates and leading educators, if I may, on this site, and all your wisdom and expertise, if people are watching right now and they're like, okay, we need to know more about this. We need to know more about this so that we can help take that information and educate others as well. Ruth, do you offer any classes? Are there any education? Is there any opportunities that you do that we can share with other folks?
Yes, YSS offers. We have grants in some counties, and in other counties, private donations have helped fund our ability to drive there. We will train for free. Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes it's a coworker of mine, Mr. Furjack, and sometimes we get the privilege of having Heather. It all depends on that safety mechanism that whoever wants to hear the training can set up for us. And so it's there. We're a phone call away. We're an email away. Give us a call, set us up, we'll come. You need to know. And guys, that's a gift that we give back to all over Iowa, but specifically, Story County, you're my home. But we give this gift back because you know what? We will never prosecute our way out of trafficking.
Yeah.
However, we can sure hinder the buyers and we can sure hinder the pimps by taking away their prey.
And Ruth, I asked Heather if she had some words of encouragement or some insight to share that maybe only she could to survivors. She's walked that path. Mm-hmm. We haven't. And she can only talk to that. Now, you've walked the path of an advocate and you've seen so much. So if you want to talk to other folks out there, what would your words of encouragement be to the loved ones who might be involved in human trafficking?
You don't ever let go. You never let go. These are your people. And it's a battle. Were there times I was scared? You betcha. What Heather went through and how they fought to get her back and what they put me through and my family. And kudos to my children. 8 of my adopted kids have been trafficked in the state of Iowa.
Wow.
And they are phenomenal support. Okay? So you put survivors together who are on that path, and we took a stand as a family. This is what we're going to do, and we do it. And to their credit, they supported me when I needed them and when I felt broken, and they support Heather every step of the way, every day, all day. And it's non-ending. But guys, you do this for people already, so it's not being heroic. This is what you do for the people you love, and it's just. Take it times 10, take it times 20. Educate people, keep them safe. Be that observant, informed person. When somebody comes to you, be that one that says, not on my watch.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Take a stand and get out there and educate. And Again, education, I find so much as the key. And I'm going to say it, Ruth. I know you've watched a lot of these YSS Let's Talk, and I know, Heather, you have too. I'm going to say it. Here I go. It takes a village. It takes a village. Again, I say that every YSS Let's Talk, but boy, does this ever take a village of people to listen, people to educate, people to reach out, people to identify, people to support, people to, and there's roles for everybody out there. Again, you're tuning in right now. It's YSS Let's Talk. We're live right here, which means that we've got some comments, we've got some questions that I want to get to. The big thing too is you can go to yss.org. You can view this and share it. Share this video. Get Heather's words of just true encouragement and awesomeness out there in her journey, and Ruth's expertise. And hey, Ruth, I'm gonna put you out there and say, if somebody wants Ruth or the team or somebody to come out and educate, go to yss.org and you can definitely tap into those resources. So here we go. Tiffany Larson. When I heard you both speak before, you mentioned the types of environments, the areas trafficked before across the states, rural and urban. It was eye-opening. Can you share that with other listeners right now? So, Ruth, I think this is a comment to our previous YSS Let's Talk.
Right.
Again, folks can go to yss.org, view that previous talk. But what's Tiffany talking about?
I want to laugh because I'm going to say I've traveled hundreds, if not thousands of miles with Heather. And I am not kidding you. We can't go anywhere in Iowa that she doesn't go, I was sold there. I was sold there. And she can tell me the room. She can tell me if I'm going into a hotel to do a presentation, she'll say something like, you're going to love the lobby. It's beautiful. And then you walk in. I mean, this is all over, guys. Every small town, every big town, I'm just horrified at how many places I can't go anymore without thinking, are they safe in there? Are they safe in there? It's everywhere. And for people to understand this or to have a connection, I'm just going to say this because I can, and you can't really stop me. So this is about sexual deviance, and people are sexual beings from birth to death. Sexual deviance allows this to happen in our world, all ages, all people. So any place there are people who are sexual, this can be happening. It's a business model, and it's about making a profit off of somebody else's body. So if you stop and you think about all the places that you could start a business in Iowa, it's pretty much infinite. So it's all over the place, guys. Don't think it's not in your world. It could be in the room next door, let alone the house next door. So don't think it's somewhere else.
Well, and Heather, you said Pella. You said Pella. I went to Central College.
Yep.
And you said that, and I was like, what? What? You know, and again, to me, even just, you know, we think Iowa, we think, you know, I just saw a comment from Phyllis. I have lived a sheltered life. And, you know, I think that in Iowa, we think, you know, safety, you know, but this happens everywhere. You know, it happens everywhere in every town, and not just Des Moines, not just Cedar Rapids, not just Iowa City, you know, even in the really, really small places too. I mean, just again, we need to do a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4 of this YSS Let's Talk, Heather. I hope you're on board for this. So, but let me get to another question here. I believe from Adelie. I'm not sure if you've mentioned this, Ruth, but if someone does come in our lives that's currently in trafficking, and we want to help and be there for them, how can we keep ourselves safe as well as help them with their safety?
Well, when you stop and you think about getting yourself safe, do that first. Like, you know, I don't know how many times we've trained on things like shutting your Facebook accounts, keeping your privacy high, making sure your house is safe and secured, et cetera, et cetera. Passwords, keywords, you know, don't get in a car with somebody, there's all kinds of those things. And we teach these things from infancy to death. Okay? So think about getting yourself safe, i.e., don't share your vulnerabilities with everyone all the time. I say things to my children. Do not ever put the names of my grandchildren out on social media. Guard your babies, guard your people you love. So that's just something that people need to take account of. And then you need to look at what could they threaten you with? What would make you go? And you know what? For a lot of us, we have vulnerabilities. I've got vulnerabilities. How would you stop from going? And you know, Heather and I have both been entrapped where they have tried to use us against each other. And what we found out is the more we communicated, the more we knew where each other was and how to keep each other safe, the less power they had. Because again, it's in the power of the unknown. So know those words, know your people, know how they communicate and talk, and then trust in that system, trust in that rule. I will also tell you at the end of this, I've got some resources I'm going to share. The PolarisProject.org, it's a national resource, and the National Counseling for Missing and Exploited Children have the best resources ever for anybody to tap into, read about. Don't let your education stop because you're having a moment of fear. If you feel fear, if you feel like this could touch your life today, tomorrow, or next week, get your education now so that you're prepared. So that when somebody approaches you, just like if it's domestic violence, somebody walks up to you and says, I'm in danger, I need help, you're able to say, I stand here, I stand for this, and I have resources and connections I can get you to so that at least we can get information into your hands. Honestly, pimps like lying so much that if we can give them truth and we can give them connections, we got this.
Yeah. And again, Ruth, you said something that I find so important, that again, we're being educated on this topic with this YSS Let's Talk. But when somebody comes to you and talks about this, just to listen and to not and correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't want to put words in your mouth. And Heather, you can jump in here too, but not to judge, not to tell what, because you had mentioned in your story that one person, I can't remember, who kind of put expectations on you and kind of even played on things, but just to really be there, be receptive, and to really be there just to be a support and to know the resources out there. I mean, Jack, I saw a comment here from Jackie that says, Heather, thank you so much for sharing your story. So many, including me, are more educated due to your willingness to share.
She is awesome. Rusty, can I address something that came up in the comment box? There's an advocate that's asking, Ariana, and I don't know that I say her name right, but she's asking about trust. And I just want to say the only way, and Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, the only way that you can build trust in another human being is to have the conversation and then to let the follow through, let your action be honest and true. If you say, I'm going to go to Walmart, do not go to Target. You go to Walmart. You make your action follow your words. And you know what? As they listen to you, as they see that you walk, that you have integrity, that you have a moral compass and a moral code, that is so attractive to them. That and the strength of just taking a stand for them, believing in them, that they will develop and build trust in you. Yes, trust can be built and rebuilt even after it's been broken. But Heather, do you want to say anything to that?
No, I definitely echo that. The other thing is, remember that the majority or a lot of people are mandatory reporters. And especially if you're working with the youth in the state, be open with them. Tell them when they, that you are a mandatory reporter, set that expectation up ahead of time. Because I'm telling you, if you don't and you go and report, you're going to instantly lose that person's trust. And this is specifically talking about minor children. So, or if you have that conversation and they tell you something before you would disclose to them that you're a mandatory reporter, tell them, I'm a mandatory reporter and I'm going to have to report this to, and then who you're going to report it to.
Yeah.
Because you've got to keep that trust.
Excuse me, Heather, if you can, do that reporting with them so they
Yep.
can hear the words right beside. I'm not going to go behind Heather's back and talk about her and vice versa. It's about that trust. Do you see what I mean? And then you're together in the battle. You're taking a stand, which is something, guys, that maybe they've never seen before. Somebody who believes in them enough to take a stand. Not on my watch.
Not on my watch. And my goodness, there's so many more things I want to discuss. I mean, look at this. I won't show you, but I've written down like 18,000 notes from you, Heather, and questions and things about, just so incredible. And I really hope the folks that are watching this will share this video and we'll go back and rewatch this and get this information, get this education out there. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for watching. This is YSS Let's Talk. We have Heather here, a survivor and an advocate of human trafficking, who I don't have words for you, Heather. Don't. And Ruth knows that's very rare for me to be wordless.
Write that down, Heather, quick.
Mm-hmm.
No,
And then we have Ruth Buckels here, a phenomenal advocate and YSS prevention manager, who was just given an award this morning at the Iowa State Capitol from Governor Reynolds. And a congratulations again to you for that award. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Like I say, we need a part 1, part 2, part 3. And boy, for everybody that's tuning in again, thank you so much. I see these comments. Heather, go back and look at these comments. There are so many of them. And Ruth, you too. You're getting big props here. You've already got enough props this morning at the Capitol. But
I did. Her feels good. So I am in an army of really, really, really incredible people. And everybody who sees this is going to join my side of the army. And they're going to stand for people that Heather and I now stand for as well. So it's just so good to have good people linking arms with us now instead of weird people.
And you know what? There are opportunities, of course, for, I'm sure, people watching to volunteer, to become a part of kind of the team, the village. There's also professional opportunities at YSS.org. You can view a lot of different listings of different job openings on the professional sector of this too. But the biggest thing is you don't have to jump on board and become a professional person to really make a big difference in people's life, like Heather. And you're doing it right now just by becoming educated. So again, thank you all so much. Before I talk about next week, Heather and Ruth, any final words for people listening? I would say, to me, this ranks as a great YSS Let's Talk, and I want to leave some folks with anything you want to leave with them.
Heather, you first.
Yeah, just we're in this together. All of you are now part of this village. And like Ruth will probably mimic, take this video and share it with 10 more friends. Educate 10 more people, because you could be the person that saves the next Heather.
Yeah. Ditto, ditto, ditto. And I would say, tell 10. I don't think I've ever ended a presentation that I don't say tell 10. Pick 10, keep 10 more safe. Guys, if we can all educate, share, and prevent this from happening, I'm in prevention. Prevention is pennies on the dollar compared to restoration. Not that I'm knocking restoration, guys, but it's so much easier to be an obstacle in the way of a pimp or a buyer. And if you know this stuff's going on in somebody's world, call it in and be that squeaky wheel until that person has help and an avenue out. And if you need support, you need somebody to stand with you, you just want to bounce off an idea, find us at YSS. We're here.
That's right, YSS.org. It's that simple. And again, thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in. I tell you what, thank you, Heather. And thank you, Ruth Buckels. I'm honored to be sharing a screen with you right now. And every Thursday, 7 p.m., you can tune into a YSS Let's Talk. And we're live every single Thursday, 7 p.m. You can ask the questions, the comments as well. Next week, we're going to be talking about the celebration of thanks. Of course, I'll be here and with Amy Hutter, our YSS Director of Marketing and Communications. And we're going to be talking about, again, that celebration of thanks, but what's that mean and how you can contribute, how you can be a part of that as well. And boy, I tell you what, if you can find out, tune in next week, because we're going to be talking about the impact that every single person that donates or that works with YSS or that contributes, volunteers, the impact is truly, truly incredible all throughout Iowa. And you just witnessed a little bit of that on, a lot of bit of that on tonight's YSS Let's Talk. So until next Thursday, thank you very much. Heather, Ruth, thank you again. I don't know what else to say.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Share it with everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.